Hello, everybody. I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live, where you'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google, Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Candid Frank Live, the one, the only, the inimitable, factually chasing reporter, Aaron. Don't call me William Freeland. No, no, he does want you to call him William Freeland.
I would hardly call myself a reporter, though. I'm more of a
Okay.
reader.
All right. We'll coin another phrase. He's a purporter of the news.
That'll work.
No, it's reporter.
All right.
And anyway, we do what we can here at Candid Frank Live, which of course the initials are CFL. So why not start with the CFL? I think that'd be more than appropriate.
I think we can do that.
Let's talk about the Riders and who they signed.
So they've actually signed an American defensive back by the name of DeMarcus Fields. For those of you familiar with Fields, he's 6', 200. He signed with the New Orleans Saints as an undrafted free agent following the 2022 NFL Draft. He went on to play 2 regular season games for the Saints that season and joined the Washington Commanders practice roster in October of 22 and remained with Washington throughout August of 2023. He had actually played 54 collegiate career games over 6 seasons at Texas Tech, making 50 starts with 224 tackles, 14 for loss, 4 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, and 45 passes defended. He was a 3-time All Big 12 honorable mention in 2018, 19, and 20, and was named All Big 12 second team in 2021. So he's had a very good university career. Followed that up with some decent stats in the NFL. He will be a very nice addition to the Riders' defensive backs.
Let's go over the National Hockey League, and a new hook being portrayed by the Canadians is winning. And why not do it with a guy named Newhook?
Exactly. Especially seeing as they're playing the Kraken. For some reason, Seattle seems to have fallen off the face of the planet when it comes to hockey. Not sure why. I'm not really sure what exactly changed for them over the course of the offseason.
They did make a couple of free agent trades, but it wasn't enough to really torpedo.
I didn't think it was enough to crater them.
Not for a second.
No, but yeah, as it stands, the Kraken are 2-6-2 in their last 10, and are currently 6th in the wild card race, behind Calgary, Minnesota, St. Louis, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Nashville Predators. So there's a bit of a surprise for you, but the Habs are unfortunately doing exactly what they don't want to do, in picking up points here. They're sitting 6 points in front of the Columbus Blue Jackets, who only have 58. But they are still also ahead of San Jose, Chicago, Anaheim, and Arizona. So that makes things a little bit more difficult for them draft wise. But we'll have to see where they end up.
And because you can't move up as much as you used to be able to move up, the benefit of being in that group of 10 that don't make the playoffs, it depends on which part of the group of 10 you're in, because your odds of making it are not very good the higher you are in the standings. And they're doing everything they can to make their pick less relevant. But they do have picks, and I think this is going to be an interesting draft. It doesn't have a generational pick in it, I don't think, this time. But whenever that happens, there always seems to be a couple of diamonds in the rough. It just means that nobody has the reputation of the kind of greatness a team can build on. But it's happened from time to time, and this could be one of those years. Let's talk about the Sens and what they did on Saturday against the Devils.
So the Sens have found themselves in some rather unenviable positions recently. The good news on this one is that they did actually manage to break a 3-game losing streak. Thomas Chabot and Matthew Joseph each scored and had an assist, as they beat the New Jersey Devils 5-2 on Saturday night. Angus Crookshank, Ridley Grieg, and Drake Batherson also had goals, and Brady Tkachuk had 2 assists for the Sens. Eunice Corpusalo stopped 18 shots for his 16th win. On the flip side of the coin, Jesper Bratt and Thomas Nosek scored for the Devils. who had a 2-game win streak stopped, and they're currently stuck just outside of the wild card playoff picture in the Eastern Conference. They'd actually scored 17 goals in their previous 5 games. They did make a move at the deadline, picking up Jake Allen. Um, However, even with the addition of Jake Allen from the Habs, who made it even more evident that they were trying to earn their bottom 10 position honestly by being truly terrible, as opposed to sandbagging it, hasn't really helped them. Unfortunately, they're still mired just behind the New York Islanders, the Detroit Red Wings, and the Washington Capitals when it comes to a wild card.
It's getting to the point where there are too many teams that you have to overcome. So a lot, too many teams have to play poorly in a long stretch for you to gain ground, and that's what they need to do, and it's going to be difficult for them. But then again, there's the good news that they played one of the Stanley Cup, I'll call them one of the Stanley Cup favorites, the Edmonton Oilers. While the Oilers had some good news, former Leaf Hyman got his 50th. They didn't get the win.
This was a bit of a shock. I'm not going to lie, Frank. Watching them play, it. I mean, the Oilers work on the second half of a back-to-back. There is that. However, um, so were the Sens. So these two teams back-to-back with travel um, just did not fall the Oilers' way. They left too many points on the table here. Um, Seeing Chikrin score late was awesome. Stutzla, Batherson, and Parker Kelly also had goals. On the flip side of the coin, Leon Draisaitl, Adam Henrique, and Zach Hyman had goals. Connor McDavid also had 3 assists in there, so he's keeping his point streak going. But by all accounts, the Oilers probably deserved a better fate than what they got. It just didn't seem to bounce their way.
Yeah. The Jets on Saturday played, of course, the Islanders, and the Islanders rode Clusterbuck and Barzell to beat the Jets 6-3. What happened there?
It just seemed like the Jets just couldn't get it done. They've lost 3 games in a row now. They're 5-5-0 in their last 10. They're slowly starting to slide down the standings. Where once they were chasing first, they now find themselves in 8th, 4 points in front of the Maple Leafs, who are in 9th, who are in front of the Edmonton Oilers by 1 with 88. Clutterbuck did have a really good game. He got 2 goals. Barzell and Hudson Fasching each had a goal and 2 assists, so 3-point nights for them. And the Islanders snapped a 6-game losing streak, which is, if you're a team like the Jets looking to make a statement and a splash in the playoffs and make a good reason for people to come back and watch you more, this is not helping. It's been a tough road for them. It's been a tough past 10 games.
Absolutely. We've got the Jets again, this time against the Caps. What happened there?
Ovechkin did Ovechkin things. He got 2 goals, and the Caps managed to vault themselves back into a wild card spot. With that win, they are now looking like they're in a better position to contend. So come the end of the year, things are going to be close. They're still chasing the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're 6 points back of Tampa as it currently stands. But the fact that Ovechkin seems to have caught fire lately also means that there's a very good chance by about halfway through next year he could pass Wayne Gretzky. So.
Well, that's really what people are watching when it comes to the Washington Capitals, and it was a consolation for the type of season that the Caps were having earlier on. They didn't look like they were going to compete for a playoff spot, but they have since, along with Ovechkin's goal-scoring prowess accentuated again, have worked their way into a possible playoff spot. And this is the beauty of the National Hockey League and actually any other league. All you need to do is punch a ticket into the playoffs, and you never know what might happen if you catch fire at the right time.
Exactly. When you peak at just the right time, good things can happen.
That is what they're looking for. Let's talk about the Canucks and Flames. Big game that night.
So Höglander scored twice. Vancouver doubled up the Flames 4-2. Connor Garland had some very positive things to say. He said, my first day here, I couldn't believe how good Höglander was 3 years ago, and I think he's just found his game all around the ice. At 23 years old, Hoaglander's got a long way to go and a beautiful career in front of him. So it just seems like things are picking up for him at just the right time. At 45, 18, and 8, the Canucks are at the top of the Western Conference standings, 3 points ahead of the Avalanche and Dallas Stars. Now, Vancouver also got a third period power play goal from JT Miller and an empty netter from Elias Lindholm. Pettersson and Garland each contributed a pair of assists.
Absolutely. The Flames played again on Sunday, this time against the Sabres, and they didn't have a good game there.
Now, unfortunately, they seem to be getting stymied a lot lately. Tage Thompson was the big hero. He had a goal and an assist. Buffalo has now improved to 5-4-1 in its last 10 games and closed out a 2-3 road trip with a victory. There were fears that Buffalo would have left too many points on the table. As for Calgary, with that loss, they are now sitting on 71 points, approximately 3 spots out of a wild card spot behind Minnesota, St. Louis, and the Golden Knights. So they're sliding further down the standings, and for a team that had such high hopes at the beginning of the season for a playoff spot, it's kind of frustrating.
It just seems more and more the trade they made with not with Tampa Bay, with Florida, has really hurt them a lot. The fortune switched with that trade immediately.
They really did.
It just is what happened. Um, you know, um, the Leafs played 2 weekend games, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. Saturday they played against the Oilers, and they jumped up to a 5-0 lead. But after that, they started to fold a little bit, and it looked dangerous. They turned a 5-0 lead into a competitive game, but they snuck it out. Aaron, how'd that work?
It was interesting to have to use the term loosely, because really I think it's a disservice to them. So a couple of lesser lights on Hat Trick Watch was actually kind of neat for a change. With Bobby McMahon getting 2 points as part 2 goals, sorry, as part of a 3-point night, and Pontus Holmberg adding 2 goals of his own. Um, it was really almost a concerted effort for them to try to lose that one. I know it didn't quite get there, but
No, it
the
didn't.
good news is they managed to pull it out. Thank goodness.
Well, Bobby McMahon's proving that he's another option for the second line,
Oh,
if
he most
necessary, right?
and I think he's paying big dividends for them having rewarded him with an extension this year as opposed to next year when it actually kicks in. So glad to see that. Holmberg had his
And,
fifth goal
and
of the
how
season.
good he becomes, and how much it could have been if he becomes really good at this point.
Yeah, this is one of those. You know what? The Leafs gave him money based on potential, and I think he's done nothing so far to dissuade them of that.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing absolutely wrong with paying for potential, but it it has to be almost a slam dunk, because unfortunately you only have X amount of money. So any potential that isn't met is a problem, because that means you're putting money there where you need it somewhere, and if it isn't coming there, it's got to come from somewhere else. But you don't have the money to do that. So it's an interesting situation.
I mean, and that's one of the big problems that the Leafs put themselves in is they paid 3 guys for potential. You
Yeah,
know,
well, right now, you can't really, you can't really complain if you're a Leaf fan for the signing of Nylander, because he's
no,
playing like a guy who's a top-notch player, right? He's scoring points. The problem is that they're hyper paying, the other three. And right now, I think it's pretty fair to say the captain is not punching his dollar weight.
he has improved a little bit. I'll be honest with you. He did have a flat
He's
part
he's
earlier in
still
the
not
season,
punching
but
his dollar weight, though, right? He's not punching his dollar weight. He's playing well. He's a good leader. But at the end of the day, we all know that if you're being overpaid $2 or $3 million, that's a pretty good player that you could get. Now we're learning that every year with the Leafs. We're watching as players have to be released, allowed to go somewhere literally for nothing, just for a contract signing somewhere else. And the Leafs have done whatever they can to give away draft choices, to give the players they have, at the end of the year, confidence, and show that they believe in those players, and that's why they're going for it. And I think that's what's wrong with Seattle. Seattle, while I'm not saying they had a team that could compete for the cup, but when you divest yourself of a player or players, a couple anyway, and don't add anybody of any significance, you're sending a message to that locker room. You actually are sending a message, and that's the danger. And I think when you think about it, Aaron, that's why the Leafs do what they do. They
Mhm.
don't want They don't want to sell their team at any point, or at least at this point in the season every year, that they don't believe in those players, because it can really, like it happened with Seattle. The team can go in reverse when they think, okay, this isn't the year.
Yeah, it's always a difficult situation when you end up, trying to massage and move stuff around to try to get the best result possible. Unfortunately, they took a risk, and I don't think it worked out for them this year. So
No,
that's
they totally did. So the back half of the weekend games was against Carolina, a team that the Leafs have constantly had problems against, and a goaltender that they know real well. And they didn't look that bad. They just, once again, it's the common theme with the Toronto Maple Leafs, whether it's playoffs, whether it's regular season. It's not about them not getting opportunities to score. It's the fact that it seems too often they lack the ability to score. They have the ability to create opportunities, golden ones, but cashing in is the biggest problem with the Leafs over the past few years. I guess because when you have as much talent as they do, you become accustomed, to the players, because of the talent they have, being able to score in ways that are pretty prolific, right? And then the slam dunks come and they don't go in.
I think they were saying on the broadcast that Matthews has hit 17 or 18 posts so far this season, and that's a lot of posts. Um, but yeah, Carolina's currently sitting in second place overall in the NHL, tied with Florida, Colorado, Dallas, and Boston. Um, so this is a team that the Leafs have had issues with. I don't think Freddie Anderson's skill has ever been a question. I think it's more a question of him remaining healthy. I mean, with the Leafs, it was his knees. In Carolina, it's been blood clots. Um, Previous to that, it was hip issues. It's one of those things where these things keep accreting. Um, but when he does have the opportunity to play, he does
When he's
really, really
healthy.
well.
Yeah, when he's healthy.
Yeah.
And when he truly is healthy, he's a really good goaltender. You can
I,
understand why Carolina wanted him and then re-signed him.
As a side note, I do believe that was the 214th game that the Leafs have not been shut out in. So at least that
They
streak
kept that alive.
continues. Yeah, they kept that alive at least. I wasn't greatly disappointed with the fact that they lost. I kind of figured it was going to be coming because Carolina was at home. Carolina was rested. Carolina was not coming off a back to back. The Leafs did something a little bit sneaky. They flew Joseph Wool down on Saturday so that he could get a good night's sleep at the hotel before playing on Sunday.
He
Uh,
was good.
yeah, he was great as
Whether
far as
that's
I'm
the
concerned.
reason or whether they didn't do something to make his game not as good. Well, he played really well. Stopped a penalty shot.
Yeah,
And Anderson got a little bit of a break from posts, like you were saying. There was one there where the puck could have get dragged to the front of net, hit the post, came out, and the lead player couldn't get it before Anderson got it. So yeah, that kind of stuff goes on with the Leafs. It is what it is, and another week of Maple Leaf hockey, and we're running out of weeks. Aaron, it's getting to the point now where where they end up in the playoffs, and are they or will they be ready? Number 20 on defense for the Leafs has looked okay. He's getting top marks from all the experts. He's able to play every shift in every situation, and it appears that uh, he could be a part of a shutdown pair.
that I would be very happy to see. The one thing I don't ever want to see is 78 and 44 together ever again. That should
Well,
never happen.
oh boy.
I
Well,
know.
78 has had problems keeping contributing to keeping the puck out of the net. He's had problems with that. Let's go over to business, Aaron, with the last couple of minutes we have, and we have here in Canada anti-authority narrative being described by experts within the Canadian government. Aaron, tell us about it.
Well, there is an uptick in violent rhetoric being used against politicians, in particular female politicians in positions of power in the Canadian government, that is increasingly getting normalized because these individuals are not being punished by the judicial system, because there's nothing in there that allows them to go after people who make death threats, really, against Canadian politicians. It almost feels like the only time that CSIS or the RCMP can do anything is after the trigger's been pulled. So this
That's
is,
kind of what constitutionality means in some ways, right, Aaron? You can't charge somebody with a crime until they commit it.
and that's the unfortunate thing, because there's nothing against hate speech or threats or violence in the criminal code that would permit the RCMP to take defensive action against these sorts of things when they happen. And because of that, violent rhetoric is increasingly becoming normalized in Canadian society, which can be potentially a bit of a problem.
What they do in the US that we could do here as well, I think one of the things I like is when you hear about the FBI and there's threatening groups and they're planning threatening behavior, somebody squeals on them. You can't arrest them, you can't do anything like that, but you can knock on their door and say, "Listen, we understand you're thinking about doing something. We would recommend that you not do it." And I think
Yeah.
that works too. So
Oh,
it's all
for sure.
about it's all about getting in the weeds and finding out who these people are and what they're planning and let them know we're watching. So if anything happens, we know what door to knock on. We know who to put in jail. We know what needs to be done. And that's what has to happen with these kind of people, Aaron. You know full well what the biggest problem with this kind of behavior, this authoritarian belief. I heard a phrase that I think I'm going to hold on to a little bit. Authoritarian governments exist because we let them. We create an environment that allows them to do what they want to do. We have to make authoritarian governments and authoritarians feel unwelcome as we can. They can't be treated like ordinary people because they're not. To your point before about you can't put people in jail who don't commit a crime, but you can let them know in the same way I said the last part. This is what they have to do now is make people feel, I'm sorry, if you don't like this, folks, but if you got people who spend their time lying and trying to gin up people in an angry way and promote violence, that in itself is a crime. That's hate in action.
Yeah, and I think you're right on that. Fomenting hatred and fomenting violence online is just not the way to go.
Yeah, and figuring out a way to make them pay for their lies would be nice too. Let's go to Alberta and let's talk about pharmacists. They can't offer publicly funded measles vaccine. What?
That's correct. They can't. The problem is Alberta isn't permitted to allow pharmacists to prescribe free, uh, publicly funded measles vaccines. This is a bit of an issue with the Alberta health system. I know they've changed some of that in Ontario to allow pharmacists to prescribe more. The growing sentiment here is that Alberta needs to permit that to happen.
Absolutely. Pick another story and we'll call it a day, buddy.
Sure. Just for those of you in Northern Ontario, please take care. There are reports that it could be anywhere from 50 to 80 centimeters of snow coming in over the course of the next couple of days. So make sure you got your chains out, make sure you got your salt
Oh,
handy, make sure you got a shovel in your trunk, and away you go.
oh,
Yeah.
this is scary stuff. I live
Hmm.
sort of kind of north, but not that far north. Hopefully, I don't live far enough north to get what you're talking about. Thanks for doing this, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Hey, glad to be here, Frank.
For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank live, Aaron Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.